So here it is, the Ford Mustang Mach-E Rally. It's the STI of the Ford Mustang world. It's the Focus RS of the Mustang world. Neither of those cars exist anymore. So here I am thinking, who is this car for? Now, to find out who it's for, we need to kind of assess the situation. Now, I'm assuming that the reason Ford discontinued the Focus RS was for a number of reasons, but those cars just made up an incredibly small segment of the market. Same with the STI. So perhaps in some strange world, Ford is hoping that some of those people that may or may have not gotten their hands on the Focus RS back in 2017 will transition smoothly into a Ford Mustang Mach-E. The difference being here, this doesn't have a manual, doesn't have an engine, it's all electric, and it shouldn't have any of the problems associated with, I don't know, a head gasket failure. So what makes the Mustang Mach-E Rally different from the standard model? Well, as you guys can tell, in this green color here, looks stunning on this green backdrop. I've had a couple cars recently, the Revuelto and then this, that have kind of convinced me, changed my mind on green cars. I think it looks phenomenal. This, in my opinion, is the best looking Mach-E by far. You can spec it without the stripes on the front and the Mach-E Rally graphics on the side. You get a different front bumper, you get the fog lights. That's my favorite touch on the exterior. Aside from the wheels, which we'll get to, you get a front splitter, very similar to the one on the GT, if not the exact same. And underneath there's a little skid plate, an aluminum skid plate. So no, this is probably not going off any jumps, but it's there nonetheless. And then down here, you've got these kind of OZ Rally style wheels, 18s versus 19s, 235 wide Michelin cross climate, all season tires here. You get the bigger Brembo brakes from the GT and a 1-inch lift. I could do without the black plastic flat cladding, but they haven't gone full Subaru and made it kind of look like a Mattel or a Hot Wheels car that makes you look like you're out on the trail every weekend. No, this should just perform, and that's that. Like I said, you can't spec it without this. I kind of like it though. These kind of OEM graphics, I think, well, they should age fairly well. Maybe they did in the 90s. We'll see how they do in the future. And then down here, you do have additional paint coverage, some kind of protective film that Ford puts there to kind of prevent rock chips. And then back here, you've got a big wing, big swan neck wing. That's probably not the right way to describe this, but here it is. It's not so big, but it definitely sets this car apart. And as far as the exterior goes, I think the Mach-E is one of the best looking compact crossovers in the EV world. Just the lines in the back. And yes, because of the sloped rear end, you do sacrifice quite a bit of cargo space back there. It does have a decent amount, and in fact, even below the floor, there's a little bit of storage. And then, of course, the second row folds down, and you have a decent amount back there too. And it still has the buttons to open the doors. I don't love that. Something about pushing in a button to then open the door towards you, that's kind of contradictory. It doesn't really work for me. It's a little bit annoying, but I get what they're going for. If they didn't do that, it wouldn't look like a coupe, and that just wouldn't fit with the whole Mustang theme. So let's go for a drive. So this is not just a new trim package for the Mustang Mach-E. It's also a little bit of an update for those who have keen eyes, or fingers rather, actually. The first thing you're gonna notice, they've ditched the hockey puck. The little rotary dial for the shifter, park, reverse, neutral drive. Yeah, that's just here on the steering column. Perfect. Thank you, Ford. It wasn't the worst, but I feel like it shifts a little bit quicker now. So Ford has not really had a rally-esque style vehicle like the Focus RS or the STI for almost 10 years since the RS. And the Raptor, that's a totally different genre. Let's do a launch. Okay, we've got a couple of drive modes: Whisper, Engage, and Unbridle. Still a terrible name. Let's see what we can do. Oh, that's a little bit of torque steer. There we go. Wow. 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. Insane. So this is not just a trim package for a base rear-wheel drive Mach-E. There we go. Rear kicking out a little bit. It's a trim package for the GT with the performance pack on top, which is an option for the GT. Here it's standard 480 horsepower and 700 pound-feet of torque. That's where that 0 to 60 time comes from. Now, oh my, that rear end is so happy. We're not even in rally sport mode. That's another thing the Rally has over the GT, is that rally sport drive mode. And it will try to send the most amount of torque to the rear. Even when that's not enabled, the rear E motor will put down more torque than the front motor. So you do have a rear biased all-wheel drive system. That's the first indication here that this is not your average kind of torque steering, even though I experienced it there for a second on the launch. The roads are wet. Your average torque steering front wheel drive based hatchback. You know, if you're coming from the ICE world and you're thinking, this is just a pedestrian, box, daily, quiet thing that's gonna be boring, it can be that too. But the Mach-E Rally gives you so much more than that. Now, will this satisfy Focus RS enthusiasts? Yeah, probably not. It's not really making any noise here, but you get Mag Ride that is optional on the lower tier, standard on the GT. It's tuned for rally driving, slight off-road driving, and the spring rates are softer too. It's not going off jumps. You have to buy a Raptor still to do that. And it's not so loose. It doesn't have like that really loose feeling where you get on the brakes, you get on the gas, and this has about as much torque as the Raptor R, which is actually kind of crazy to think about. It doesn't pitch and roll and dive quite like the Raptor, and that gives you the sense that you can actually still drive this pretty hard on a twisty road. Now, with these all-season tires, on the 18s versus the 19s, a little bit more sidewall, less mechanical grip. They're also a little bit thinner too, 235s here versus 245. So with less grip, plus a little bit looser suspension, you get just a looser, kind of more playful vehicle at lower speeds. It wants to kick out in 99% of scenarios where you're on throttle, and most of the control there comes from the throttle. It's loose, it's pretty good. The steering doesn't have the most feel, but if I'm feeling the tires on the rear axle through my seat, which I am, that's a lot of where the confidence to be able to just then go and flick it into a corner, that's where that comes from, for me at least. What you do notice in rally sport mode, the throttle pedal, the calibration is just very linear and consistent. So you just get a smooth input. Same with the steering, it lightens up a little bit so that if you need to grab it, counter steer, it's not difficult, it's not unpredictable. I will say, this suspension, it's great. It soaks up bumps. It's really comfortable. I complained a lot in the previous Mach-E's I drove with the premium pack without the Mag Ride, how those cars were bouncy. They were not very comfortable to drive at all, kind of unsettling in certain scenarios. This fixes that. One thing though, at low speeds, the suspension knocks. It's got like weird kind of crackles to it. It's not, I guess knock maybe isn't the right word, but it's kind of clicking in all four corners. It sounds like somebody who just installed coilovers but then forgot to tighten the nuts on the top hats. That's what it sounds like. Or, I was thinking about this on the way here, when Ocean Gate kept going deeper and deeper, and then you started hearing those like cracks. Not a very comforting sound, so I hope that doesn't speak any volumes to the build quality and the rest of the vehicle, but like, not good. That was the first thing I noticed. A little bit sideways here. Yup. Oh, it's good. It's good. Now, is it heavy? Yeah, it's definitely very heavy. Do you feel that? Yes, the steering is very boosted in all drive modes, and you feel a certain sense of just mass here. And yeah, being rear biased helps with that. But at the same time, 700 pound-feet, it doesn't really feel like 700 pound-feet. If you were to drive a gas-powered car with 700 pound-feet of torque, that thing would be insane all of the time. It's not that crazy here, especially when you're above kind of 50 miles an hour, so you pin it. It's fast, very fast, don't get me wrong, like 50 kilometers an hour. I mean, It's very quick, but just don't let 700 pound-feet fool you. It feels closer to kind of 500 pound-feet just because this thing is so heavy. Who is this for then? This is for the Mustang Mach-E buyer who, well, is not going to take it on the track, which I can't imagine many of you guys are. But it's also for those who just don't want to be afraid if they hit some pothole-ridden road. You can just go anywhere. Are you going to be camping in this? No, there's not a ton of cargo space. The sloped back has some sacrifice to it. There's next to no room in the front, so that's kind of useless. It's just a more comfortable, compliant, and fun Mach-E. The GT attempted to, with power and torque alone, make a more enticing experience for a little bit more money. This just takes it over the edge. It doesn't really have much competition. Now, the Ioniq 5 does have the XRT model, which is slightly lifted. It's got some plastic black cladding, you know, the standard, and because of its just inherent shape, a box on wheels, it has better approach and departure angles. Not that those are really stats that we're really taking seriously in a compact EV crossover, but it has to be said, a little bit better in that scenario. But if you're going at higher speeds, you want to take speed bumps quicker, you want to hit the dirt road, whatever it is. Are we taking any Focus RS buyers, people who've previously bought that car, and putting them into an EV? Absolutely not, no. But what could be like an additional benefit of building something like this? Because you enthusiasts, if you've made it this far in the video, I know you're not going to be buying one of these, but for the Mach-E people, this might kind of tune them into that rear bias driving coming from the Mustang that they potentially had not experienced before. So while we're stuck behind this traffic, visibility is great. Materials are awesome. Alcantara door cards here, Bang & Olufsen sound system. It's pretty good. These seats you get with the Mach-E Rally, amazing. But the most important thing is, aside from the massive bolsters, the thigh bolsters are not so aggressive to where daily driving this car and getting in and out is a chore. It's actually, they've kind of put some thought into that, which I can appreciate. Pretty much everything's in the screen. At the very least, drive modes are easy to get to. And of course, you know, whisper, steering lightens up, throttle gets a little bit lighter, engage, regen comes on a little bit more unbridled, a little bit more aggressively. And no, you still cannot customize your drive mode. So if I want really light steering, but a more aggressive regen, not one pedal drive, just a more aggressive regen, you can't do that. That's kind of annoying. Climate control is all on the screen, but they made one important fix to kind of make it a little bit more friendly for those of us who want like a tactile feel. And that is when I go down here and hit, for example, temperature, then it changes the volume knob, this physical dial here, into a control for the temperature. Same with the heated seat, and then you can adjust it with this knob. So I do like that. It has a 91 kilowatt hour battery that is good for 426 kilometers of range or 265 miles. No, we're not getting that. We're at 64%, 222 kilometers. It's telling me we have left. So just keep that in mind. And it is not cold out right now. It's 8 degrees Celsius. So if you're in, I don't know, Manhattan, Michigan, Calgary, Edmonton, places where it actually gets legitimately cold, that's only gonna get worse. In all honesty, I hope Ford is able to sell a lot of these and continue building enthusiast EVs, even though a lot of us are in the camp that EVs are just fighting this incredible uphill battle to try and be fun. And this is where we get the fake gear shifts in the Ioniq 5N. It's a lot of fun. And here, I think this is a little bit more of a practical way to do that. Rear bias, all-wheel drive system, in combination with like a slightly looser suspension, the ability to kind of go not anywhere you want, but more places than you would have otherwise been able to go in a much lower Focus RS or a standard Mach-E. So I get it. I hate to say it, but I get it. The Mach-E does so many things right. And most importantly, it's fun to drive. So there you go. Mustang Mach-E Rally. I'll put the pricing in the description. This one as spec'd, I believe, is about $83,000 Canadian or somewhere in the 60s. It'll be on screen right now. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. We'll see you next time.